Matrix model is trying to tell us, let's say. So just as the Matrix film is a metaphor, this also is a metaphor, but I think it's a level or two closer to actual energetic truth. And so I caution my listeners not to share this model with other people, and not to adhere to it or accept it too quickly, to allow it to exist in their consciousness as a narrative, as a piece of fiction, as a myth, and just to see how it applies to their understanding and their experience. It's a lens to look at the world and to look at our experience and just see if we can see things more clearly through this lens. That's basically all I'm trying to give here. As I say, it's a working model that may or may not allow us to understand our reality better. Okay, now having given that little qualifier, I will proceed on to the full disclosure of my thesis. Take a breath. Because this is a model of reality that will change everything. It will change absolutely everything that we think we know. It is a perspective that will lead us to a whole new reality tunnel. It is an opening in this reality which would allow us to glimpse another reality that is hidden behind this one. This world that has been pulled over our eyes to keep us from the truth. I believe it is a world of tulpas, a world of thought forms, in which there are very few living beings who are actually fully conscious, ensouled, energetic beings. I believe that there's a very small number of us alive today, just as there has always been, and that the increasing population has nothing at all to do with more and more souls coming into this earth plane, and everything to do with the creation of increasing number of tulpas in order to create an increasing amount of noise to flood out the signal of the universal vibration, the divine frequency, galactic consciousness. I believe that this is the Matrix, that it is a world populated by thought forms created by the old seers, using our psychic energy to do so. It's not possible for them to create a world of 6 billion individuals using only their own psychic energy. They're not that powerful. There are only a few hundred, or at best a few thousand, of these old seers operating, controlling apparently billions of individuals. They don't have to control billions because they've created billions. They only have to control a few thousand of us, or a few 100,000 of us, however many of us there are, I don't know. Now, the old seers have created a morphogenetic field using the tulpas, using our disowned psychic energy, that is almost impossible to resist. A matrix, an energy field of directed attention, of thoughts, and of behavior that is so pervasive that we have almost no choice but to go along with it, like a current that simply can't be resisted. So if you create 1,000 tulpas and direct them to modes of behavior, such as eating, such as wearing clothes, such as drinking alcohol, such as going to the movies, such as cruising the bars to get laid, etc., etc., etc. These modes of behavior become neurotypical. They become the way that we are hardwired to behave, because we are imitative beings. It creates almost like a new genetic code, except that it isn't genetic. It's energetic. It's an overlay. It's a matrix world. This is an incredibly ingenious and effective strategy. It works on so many different levels. The first level is that it keeps us from finding each other. It keeps us from organizing, from recognizing who we are, and of connecting, and of forming groups, and of aligning our intent, and of overcoming the hegemony and the control of the old seers, and of attaining freedom. Because we are essentially lost in a sea of noise. We are surrounded and oppressed by a world that is created and sustained by thought forms who do not have a thought in their head that hasn't been put there, either by the old seers or as a sort of distorted replication of our own disowned psychic pollution. And these tulpas essentially run the show, although they're simply puppets. But apparently they do. In every field of politics, entertainment, military, medicine, just the whole superstructure of society as we know it is basically being driven and maintained by thought forms. And these are puppets that are being manipulated from behind the scenes by the old seers. Now, the next level is that because these old seers are using our psychic energy to do this, it is a way to prevent us from actually owning our own power. Because our power, because we've disowned it, we have disowned the larger part of our psyches, of our unconscious, and as a result we don't have access to it. It becomes autonomous. And this allows the old seers to use this energy. Of course it is through their intervention and their interference that we have been separated from it to begin with. So this is all part of a design that goes back thousands of years. But however it began, however exactly it has been affected, and I'm still working this model out, the bottom line is that because the old seers are using our own disowned psychic energy to create thought forms with, it makes it almost impossible for us to reclaim that energy. Because it's out there, it's autonomous. We can't even recognize it for what it is. We interact with tulpas, we have no idea that they are actually fragments of our own psyches. They are like our disowned children. And they are unruly aspects of our psyche. They're fragments of our shadow. And so of course they're creating a hell world that seems to be everything that we are not, and that we would do anything to be rid of, because they're the parts of ourselves that we've disowned. But we can't ever get free of it unless we recognize it for what it is and reclaim it and integrate it back into ourselves. And also only by doing so can we actually reclaim the energy that we need in order to become whole. Okay, so this is getting a little bit tricky. It's getting very tricky. I need to backtrack a little bit. Disowned energy. What this would suggest then is that each of us, as autists, shamans, sorcerers, and if you're listening to this broadcast and you're able to hold it in consciousness and allow it to be a possibility, then there's a good chance that you're a sorcerer. The basic tenet, I think, for how one would know if one is a tulpa, a thought form, or an original monad soul, would be simply whether we can allow this possibility fully into our consciousness. And that, of course, would include the possibility that we are not monad souls who are there at the origin, the original creation, but are fragments or secondary tulpa thought forms that have been created like replicants in Blade Runner. If we can allow the